Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Career v Family and says, am I the arsehole here for calling my wife selfish for even considering taking a job across the country and trying to uproot our family? So my wife was recently offered a job across the country, which requires relocation but also will have frequent travel obligations. My wife feels this would be a huge plus to her career. The issue is we have 2 children and my practice is here. What she will earn is not even half of what I currently make. She is currently not working, so I told her if she wants to take the job, she would have to help with childcare expenses, which would likely include a nanny because I sometimes work nutty hours depending if I have a mandated hospital shift. She feels this is unfair because she would have to cover her own living expenses and paying for childcare on top of what would leave her with very little. This job is not even providing a relocation bonus. She suggested we move, but everything we know is here. Our children have their friends here, and transferring my medical license is not all that simple. Her final suggestion is she takes the kids. I stay here and cover the cost of childcare and expenses because she claims childcare and cost of living is cheaper. Just not cheap enough for a potential salary to sustain me being a stay-at-home parent. I want to support her, but her suggestions seem half-baked to me. Love Lola Hart says not the arsehole, and it's a bit concerning for the state of your marriage that your wife suggested that you and she live in different parts of the country. I could be way off base, but if she's going from not working to suddenly wanting to move across the country with the kids for a career, it's possible she's getting her ducks in a row prior for asking for a separation. If she moved with the kids and then filed for divorce, it's possible you'd have to give up your practice and move to where she is if you want to see your children. I don't know what kind of career your wife is looking to have, but I can't imagine there isn't another opportunity that's more geographically desirable. I would have to sit down with her and emphasize you want to support her without ripping your family in half. Evil Code replies to that saying, this sounds a lot like a quiet divorce. Living across the country from one another, she has custody of the kids, but you're still paying for most of everything. I get if she's excited about a new job, but the decision needs to be made for the good of the entire family, not just her. If she's insistent on it, you have your answer. She's choosing this job over the family. OK Luck says, not the arsehole, but unlike everyone here who thinks she's not into the relationship, I might suggest she's simply tired of being home so much and wants to have a professional identity outside of the home for her. If she's not working, she might feel pressure to accept the first job offer she gets because to her, it's a long time coming. It sounds like financially it won't work, which stinks for her, but be understanding. Imagine if you were home all the time and suddenly someone offered you a job you had longed for. Then respond with that awareness in mind. And another commenter says not the arsehole. It's unreasonable of her to expect all her proposed upheaval and practical issues that come with this job. But here's the thing, as unrealistic as she's currently being, she's very clearly showing you a need she has that she feels very strongly about. She obviously wants to do more than simply be a stay-at-home mom. Not that there's anything simple about that, and the job is offering her the kind of self-actualization that she obviously feels she is missing. Plus, she will be flattered and chuffed and want to follow that feeling. There has to be a compromise here. I suspect she's being so vociferous about this specific job because she doesn't feel like she's capable of getting another offer like it, but also close to it. There's a confidence issue that she needs to address. It's fair you don't want to do a massive move, lose your practice and lose your roots, or for a job that pays half of what you currently earn, or you need to start a new practice from scratch. But there's a larger issue here that you need to talk about with your wife. So, OP did update that post and says, brief update since I got some requests. Not much has changed. I spoke with our kids and of course they like it where we are. They are kids. The reason my wife wants to take this job is because she feels, due to the nature of how she got the offer of her old professor/mentor, and that she is also a female engineer, she understands her position. My wife is free to do what she pleases. She does not need my permission, but by no means can she expect us to uproot everything on the drop of a dime. I would never ask that for you. I did suggest she tries and creates her own firm here and find like-minded individuals who share a similar experience and create the work environment she wants. She is concerned she won't be able to break through that barrier of entry. I told her we could find the means to fund said venture. The logistics of moving does not make sense at this. I would need at minimum a year to get my affairs in order. Working on research, working on opening an infusion center near the hospital, that would take every insurance. This is a big one for me since many of the infusion centers near us do not take certain insurances since they pay so little. Look into the possibility to expand my MS clinic with more providers who are willing to do this labor of love for our community. I cannot just drop all of that. I did tell my wife I have no intention of stopping her, and if she wishes to go that is fine, but I would not be sustaining 2 households. She moves, she'll be responsible for all the costs associated with the move. I will cover our shared expenses and primary residence, and that is all. I will cover everything here, and she'll be responsible for her own expenses. I told her I would probably also lower or get her off the credit cards, also since I know she would live off credit if she had to. I threw out the option if she can request she works from home 3 out of the 4 weeks she is not traveling, and we can take it slow. See what the housing market is like, see what the school's like, normal stuff you have before moving. She was not in favor of waiting since allegedly they need her answer by October. I have no desire to divorce, but I'm a child of divorce and was raised by my dad. Overall, his outlook on divorce has always been no point fighting if the person is already checked out. If my wife wants out, I will respect that. My wife has only been a stay-at-home parent for around 5 years. She worked when we had our firstborn and well into the pregnancy of our second. She took maternity leave. When that was done, went back to work. A few months after her return, she was passed for a project/contract. She did the legwork to secure, which led her to quit and stay at home with the kids. Our kids have been in daycare, under grandparents' care. My mum took 2 years to help with our firstborn. Her parents took time off for our second. Our second has been in academic daycare, as she puts it, since they were 3. So it's not like she does not get breaks or is always with the children alone. My hours can be chaotic, but I made her well aware of this when we started to date and progress. When we started to date, I was already vested in our community. My gut tells me she's going to take the job, and yes, it possibly will lead to divorce. If that is the case, given how much traveling she will be doing, I suspect I'll be granted primary custody. I would not take child support from her. I have no desire or need for it. Sorry for the stream of consequences. It is slightly disjointed because this is a frustrating position to be in. I have no desire to be in this position, but I have other responsibilities I cannot just drop without proper notice. If it comes to divorce, that is the way it played out, and you just roll with it. As my parents told me, I will tell my kids. Just because they were no longer together does not mean either of them love me any less. Granted, it was not a cross-country thing in our case. My parents lived blocks away from one another. It was a pretty easy transition on my part. I hope we can do the same for our kids if need be. The deal is far worse than I thought, but it is a small startup thing with a small team. We won the project since they took a huge cut on their profits. So pay is actually a lot less than half what I make. More like 1/3 of what I make, if that. So I can see how she cannot afford to cover any shared expenses. She probably will barely be able to cover her own expenses. We will see, but all signs point to her taking the job, and we will just adjust. But if divorce happens, it happens. That is life. I do love my wife, but she is her own person with free will. And it kind of felt to me, like OP said earlier on, that it felt like she already checked out in some ways. We see it a lot in these stories. And of course, everyone deserves career fulfillment if that's what they want, but not at the expense of absolutely nuking your family. I think there was a lot of compromise in there without anything being given back. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from OpenMobile2057. And it says, am I the asshole here for not apologizing for withholding financial support until my son passed his paternity test? Throwaway account because outside of this, I don't intend to make posts regularly, and we'll go back to just reading. I, 55 male, have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. My son is my oldest, and up until recently, I thought he was a decent man. Unfortunately, my daughter-in-law, Tessa, 32 female, fake name, showed me that I was wrong, and when revealed to me that the reason she was divorcing my son was because he cheated on her multiple times and gave her an STD. She made a social media post with pictures of text exchanges and showed video recordings of messages he left proving her side. I was shocked, and when I confronted my son, He said that she over-exaggerated and that the only reason he did it was because she wasn't putting out. Tessa gave birth to their second child 7 months ago, and their first child is 3 years old. I apologized to Tessa for my son's behavior and then yelled at him for being so selfish, intentionally hurtful and cruel. I did not hide or downplay my disappointment and was only silenced by my wife's defense of our son. I remember how hard it was when my wife had our second daughter and couldn't believe she didn't have a shred of sympathy for Tessa. Tessa is a sweet and smart person, and she didn't deserve what our son did. My wife has been letting our son stay in our house despite my wishes, saying that he needs our support. But I say he's in need of a hard lesson. We fought about this constantly. Eventually, my son accused Tessa of getting the STD from someone else and demanded a paternity test. I knew these claims were bullshit and saw red. I yelled at him for it, and his mother came to his defense and told me a man had every right to know if his kids were his. I countered with demanding a test of my own, and my wife was offended and I moved out. She and my son sent others after me and either lied and overplayed what things were like at home, and I just got tired of defending myself. I was going to let things be until either my wife or my son contacted my job and made hurtful accusations about a female employee that I've been mentoring for the past year, and that's when I snapped. I'm filing for a divorce. The house is paid off, so I'm willing to let her have it, but until a judge says so, I've stopped putting money in any of the accounts that she has access to and only make payments to the credit card with a 4K limit, so she has money to buy groceries, get gas, and pay for other expenses. I've also changed my main beneficiaries to my daughters and told my son if he wanted a single cent of my money, he'd have to take a DNA test. He later did, and he passed, and I responded with an email acknowledgement that he was my son, as well as a copy of the re-updated will, where he will receive 10% of my assets. My wife and son are demanding a public apology, but I don't feel like they deserve it. Am I wrong? Edit to add. Just to be clear, since people seem to be skipping over it, but my wife called my job and accused one of my mentees of getting special treatment in exchange for special favors from me and other men in the company. She made such a big public stink that HR is investigating and my mentee is considering leaving due to the embarrassment and stress, not to mention the damage to my own professional relationship. What's with the mental gymnastics of your son in this situation? Cheated multiple times on his wife, gave her an STD, then has the absolute audacity to demand a paternity test while accusing her of infidelity. But your wife in the situation as well, calling your workplace to spread false accusations about you and a female colleague? I can't see a way coming back from that, right? Once that line is crossed, that's it. And also there was a hint that you're just going to give your half of the house up. Absolutely do not do that. Careless says not the arsehole, but you get half of the house. Get a really good divorce lawyer. Document, document, document. Fluffy says now that he's proven he's your son, leave the money to his children. Mocha replies saying this: leave his share of the inheritance straight to his children. Skip him in the line. Just make sure your other kids and grandkids understand you aren't giving his kids special treatment. You're just bypassing him in a way you didn't have to do with your daughters. Lord replies to that saying, that's what my wife's grandma did. She had one piece of shit son who had 2 kids, that we know of, with random women and refused to claim them. Family only found out when they were teenagers and sought him out, and even then he refused to acknowledge them, but the rest of the family welcomed them with open arms. He did a ton of other shit as well, and is just a nasty, unpleasant person. Grandma left everything split evenly between her kids, with an exception to share with the grandkids, except for Uncle Arsehole, where she specifically included all of his kids as beneficiaries, including the 2 he refuses to claim, and only give him 10% of his portion. The Environment says, OP didn't make social media posts. The daughter-in-law did because her husband was cheating on her and gave her an STD. OP didn't make things public. His wife and son did when they told other people lies about him and contacted his employer. I think asking for a paternity test was a bit over the top, but the wife and son sound like 2 awful peas in a pod. I don't blame you for divorcing her. They're both arseholes. Hopefully you can maintain a good relationship with your daughter-in-law and your grandchildren. Striker says, why would you give an apology to people who, for the cheap seats, try to ruin your life? Accusations like that at a job can destroy a career, and depending on how bad they are, do worse. Frankly, I wouldn't apologize and I wouldn't be playing that card either. She wanted to ruin your career. She clearly can find the money to live off by herself. Another commenter who says, not the arsehole. Your wife and son are cut from the same cloth. They're both arseholes. Your comment about wanting a DNA test was just a fair response to her defending your son by saying a man had every right to know if his kids were his. You just showed her hypocrisy there when she became offended and kicked you out. I have no sympathy for cheaters or their apologists. If this is the stance your wife has taken, then she can have your son while you divorce and move on. One of them tried to mess with your career as well. I don't blame you from withholding money from your wife until the settlement. I think you're being overly generous giving your son 10%. I'll give him nothing but name his kids as heirs to your will. They also deserve no apology. So then OP did come in with an update and says, because I still see a few people writing update me, I thought I'd give a little update to the chaos that is my life. In short, the young woman who I was mentoring talked to HR is leaving the company and will be suing my wife for defamation. I'm also being pushed to leave, despite HR clearing me of any wrongdoing. A lot of people in the office just give me dirty looks and or keep their distance. I've also gotten a lawyer. She feels confident that because the evidence of my wife's blatant attempt to sabotage my reputation at work, I can just give her a lump settlement instead of alimony. My lawyer also agrees to a lot of you in regards to not just giving my wife the house, but rather sell it and split the profits. I'm back in the house for now, per my lawyer's advice, and it's pretty miserable right now. Definitely drinking a lot more than I used to, just trying to hang on. I've also had some hard but honest conversations with my daughters, and I've come to accept that there are certain aspects of fatherhood that I failed in. I did show up to school events and spend time with my children, but overall, I let my wife do the majority of the parenting, and she favored our son. I just never really paid much attention, and my daughters didn't feel as if they could talk until now. However, they're still willing to have a relationship with me, and are on my side with a divorce. I haven't spoken to my daughter-in-law much, but she did send me a thank you text for standing up for her. Thanks for reading. Damn, the fallout on this one is absolutely devastating. That innocent colleague who's had her career torched, I hope her legal battle is successful because she was just totally innocent in this. But also, good on OP for the self-reflection about the parenting failures as well. And it must be awful to be staying in a place by the people that's betrayed you while your career is going down the pan at the same time. But I really do hope that there's some light at the end of the tunnel for OP, once that divorce finalizes and he gets out of that house, the toxic environment. I really hope things will be completely different for him as well. The legal side, as always, I'm no legal expert, but he sounds like he's in a pretty solid position from that side of things. I'm assuming the wife being sued in this won't have a knock-on effect to OP. I don't know. As I said, I don't know any of the legal side of it. But I really do wish all the best going forward. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now this next story, it comes from Numerous Tradition 85 from the True Off My Chest subreddit. It comes with an update that came 2 years later. And it says, it's 3 months before my wedding. And I don't know if I can go through with it. So this started off back in 2023. It said, so I've been with my fiance for 3.5 years and culturally we're already married as he has paid a dowry for me. We're planning a big celebration in September and as it draws nearer, I'm starting to really not like him. Backstory. My fiance enjoys drinking from time to time and sometimes he's not the nicest drunk. Somehow, I always find a way to forgive him. 3 weeks ago, he came home drunk from a night out with colleagues and there was no food available for him. So he went on a rant about how he's calling off the wedding because I don't care about him and I don't know how to take care of him. He said this the day before my grandmother's funeral. He eventually came to his senses and apologized, and as usual, I brushed it off. There have been multiple instances where he's drunk and rants about how I'm not a warm woman and that I don't care about him. But last night took the cake. We went out with friends and the plan was for me to get a bit tipsy because I've been going through a lot. We recently learned that my mum is in complete renal failure and my dad has been in and out of the hospital. Anyway, we're having a great time and I get tipsy. I soon realized that he's getting drunk, so I stopped drinking so I can take care of both of us. We eventually get home and I get him to bed. I take 2 strong painkillers so I can sleep, as I haven't slept in 3 nights. I made sure to give him a glass of water and everything he needs should he not feel well. The pills worked a bit too well apparently, because it turns out he ended up throwing up in the bathroom and had to clean it up himself. I didn't hear anything until I came back into the bedroom, where he snapped at me saying he almost died and I didn't come help him. I informed him that I was sleeping and didn't hear anything, and he refuses to listen. Instead, he is telling me that I've proved to him that I don't care about him because I abandoned him in his time of need. I feel bad that I didn't hear him, but I was absolutely exhausted. I've always helped him whenever he got too drunk and threw up. I've always made sure to clean him up and get him into bed. I'm hurt and I'm angry because I'm always being accused of not caring. I don't know how much more I can take. I can't speak about this to anyone in my life, so thanks for reading this far. Commenter says to OP, has he ever made sure you have water by your bed and food when you come home drunk from a night out with colleagues? Has he cleaned up your puke? Made sure he's taking care of you even when he hasn't slept for 3 days? Maybe he is a cold man who doesn't know how to take care of you and him. Maybe he keeps abandoning you. Maybe he doesn't love you. Maybe you should call off the wedding. See how crazy it sounds when you turn the question around. Leave this man and find a much, much better one. Commenter says, you deserve better. Don't marry him. Another commenter says, yep, I called off a September wedding at the end of June. It's never too late. If you feel it's wrong, don't go through with it and end up miserable. It'd be more difficult to leave. It's not your job to take care of and clean up after an angry drunk. He might not be now, but verbal abuse can escalate to physical. If you want to even try and see if things can change, you'd have to give him an ultimatum. Not a fan, but sometimes necessary, that he has to stop drinking altogether and do therapy. If he can't or won't do it, or you just don't want to deal with it any longer, very valid reason, then save yourself the hassle and heartache. Because as another commenter wrote, you deserve better. And another commenter says, if you had a friend that was marrying a guy like this, what would you say to her? Get out now. You're taking care of a drunk who is only looking for a new mummy to take care of him. You deserve better. So, as I mentioned, it was 2 years later that OP came in with her update. It was a short one, but conclusive. It said, I married him and lived to regret it. Everything got worse after marriage. The drinking, the emotional and mental abuse, the physical intimidation, and oh my goodness, the cheating. All while I was going through heavy depression, all while going through fertility treatments and having a miscarriage. I even got admitted into a psychiatric hospital. It's been a crazy year. We're now officially divorced and we don't speak. It's weird. I've spent most of my 20s with this man and I'm trying to figure out what life without him is. And I'm failing dismally. But I know I'll eventually be okay. Thanks guys. Commenter says, one of those situations where you should actually have listened to the hundreds of comments telling you to run. Hope you can find some peace now. OP says, I was too scared to face him and my reality and I paid for it with my mental health. I eventually got out and never looked back. Commenter says, hate to say but will anyway. Better late than never OP. Better late than never. And absolutely that last comment basically said it all really. Better late than never. OP said she was too scared to face her reality and she paid for it with her mental health, which was absolutely heartbreaking for OP. But now she's free, divorced, and she gets to figure out who she is without this dragging her down, without him dragging her down. And I imagine when that's all you know, it can be really scary. When, like what OP said, they spent their entire 20s with that person. But imagine how much scarier it would have been being trapped in that cycle for another decade or more. So regardless of when you did it, good on you for getting out of that situation, OP, and I really do hope everything goes in a more positive fashion moving forward. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story, it comes from No2864 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, Am I the Arsehole Here for removing the ladder on my bunk bed so my niece can't get to me? My sister, female 24, just moved back home with her husband and their daughter, 5, and son, under 1 year old. My sister was able to convince my parents to make me, female 15, share my bedroom with her daughter because she and her husband would already be sharing a bedroom with their baby. She also wanted us to switch bedrooms too because my bedroom is her old bedroom and a lot larger than the spare room, which was my old bedroom. My parents at least said no to that. We ended up having my bed replaced with bunk beds so it wouldn't be too crowded. I sleep on the top bunk, and my niece started in the middle of the night climbing up into my bed to sleep with me because she was scared. I guess she gets scared a lot at night, but more here, and will go to sleep with her parents when she's scared. She's also too scared to go down the hallway to her parents' room because she has to go past the big dark windows in the hallway and past the staircase, which is scary because it's a dark hole. They tried putting in night lights. That's made it worse. I usually sleep deeply so I don't notice her get in, but I wake up sometimes after she crawls in because it gets really hot and she's kind of gross because she's sticky with sweat and I just don't like it. So I realized I don't need the ladder to get up to the top bunk and ended up using a screwdriver to remove the ladder from the bunk bed so she can't get to me. I guess she hadn't been sleeping well since I removed the ladder because the school got involved about her being tired all the time and they got in trouble. My sister thinks I'm being petty and I can just suck it up and let her sleep with me if she's scared. I still don't want to though. Friendly mum says to the OP, not the arsehole. You're 15 but still legally a child too. You shouldn't be responsible for a child that isn't yours. Tell your parents that your needs and your ability to sleep at night are also important. That your tiredness is impacting your schooling and ability to concentrate. It's time to revisit the sleeping arrangements as it's not working. Also tell them that having a 5-year-old climbing ladders in the middle of the night in the dark and without some kind of supervision is incredibly unsafe for the 5-year-old, and this needs to be changed immediately. You need your bedroom back, and your sister and her partner can sleep with and look after their own kids at night. Another commenter says they're getting free room and board. The least they can do is suck it up and sleep with their kids in their own room. Slow says, right, they made the choice to move back in, so they should handle their kids, not dump them on you. Hey Pretty says, OP should frame it like, okay sis, you can absolutely have your room back, the bigger room, and with all your newfound space, you have the room to parent your 5-year-old at 3 AM instead of forcing a child-free high school student with enough stress about the future to lose sleep doing your job. You wanted the bigger room and you can have it, and everything that comes with it. Up to and most definitely including your child. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. You removed the ladder because you were afraid she would climb it and fall and get hurt. If she's having trouble sleeping, then her parents have to work that out, not you. Another commenter says, this is the narrative you want, OP. When you talk to your parents and sister about it, you want to point out how dangerous it is that she's climbing a ladder unsupervised in the middle of the night, and further that, if she's up there with you, she risks falling out of bed. You're doing what's best for the child's safety, since no one else seems to give a damn about that. The fact that it also is better for your situation is simply incidental. We saw the entitlement very early on in the post that the sister moved back in and is immediately demanding her old room back. And the commenters are absolutely right. The sister should be parenting her own. It shouldn't be on a 15-year-old to be taking this responsibility. And just for OP's personal space as well. And I'm not sure about other locations, I can only speak for on the UK behalf. Someone OP's age will be looking at some fairly important exams at this stage in their life, where they need to be revising, need decent amount of sleep, and just genuinely looking after themselves without having a 5-year-old running around and giving them grief. I know sometimes we do have to sacrifice things for family. I mean, I had to myself when I was younger and my brother moved in, but it was made very apparent that I was allowed to choose the room. I was allowed to make the decisions on that first, and it was discussed with me on how it would work. Not just come barging into the house demanding what room you want and then putting all the responsibility on a 15-year-old. Doesn't work that way. But it was about a month later that OP came in with an update and says, my parents didn't make me put back up the ladder and told my sister and her husband that they had to figure something out. So my niece started sleeping in with sister and her husband in their room. It was too crowded for her husband though, so he started sleeping downstairs. But it didn't work out either because my dad gets up really early. So my sister and her husband started fighting a lot and he left last week, and I think he is now staying with a friend. So now my sister has to take care of the kids on her own mostly, and apparently it's my fault because her daughter misses her dad too. He would still be here if I didn't make a big deal out of everything. Commenter says, she is not your kid. It is not your fault or your responsibility. Another commenter says exactly, if people cannot provide for and care for children, then they should be smart and choose not to have them. Their responsibility. Bulbasaur Ranch says none of this is in any way your fault. Admirable says her marriage issues aren't your responsibility, and safety boundaries are always valid. Mimi says not your fault or your responsibility. She can't expect you to share a room with a little child. It's her kid she has to care for, not yours. Anyway, you as a teenager need your privacy and quiet too. Your sister should be thankful she has a place to live without paying rent. She sounds pretty entitled, to be honest. Further, what's the plan long term? If it's already not working out for them now and they fight, do they have a plan to move out soon? What's the reason they moved back home? Opie says my parents told me that they were having money problems. They said they were going to let them live here for a year to get back on track, but that's it. Yeah, and we come back to it's not your responsibility, not your problem, and the fact that this is being pushed on you as your problem by your sister. I'll be saying this to your parents, and they really need to step up and put her in her place right now. She should not be making you feel guilty for this in any way whatsoever. None of it is your responsibility. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you say to OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.